The Cyberdemon, a classic monstrosity that's been one of Doom's most iconic and formidable foes for literally as long as Doom has existed, and one that across the series' many different renditions across its long lifetime thus far has never failed to make a strong and lasting impression. Unsurprisingly, the Cyberdemon is set to return to the fray with the upcoming Doom: The Dark Ages. So before we jump back into the medieval battlefield with this iconic demon, here, we're going to look back at its history across Doom. The Cyberdemon first appeared in the original Doom itself, and was, as many will tell you, among the game's most formidable foes, in fact. For all practical purposes, the Cyberdemon was the toughest demon you could fight in Doom. Boasting impressive speed and a large pool of health, this was an enemy that demanded ridiculous amounts of ammo to be taken down. Meanwhile, the original Doom was, of course, also where the beast's visual design was solidified. The original Doom portrayed the Cyberdemon as a large bipedal minotaur-like monster, touting imposing horns, cybernetic enhancements, metal and wires grafted onto the skin here and there, a missile launcher for an arm, and what have you. When it appeared in Doom 2, the Cyberdemon retained its visual design and gameplay attributes pretty much without any notable changes, which meant that the demon was once again among the game's most challenging threats, if not outright the most challenging. And, if you can believe it, somehow the Cyberdemon only got more dangerous and threatening from that point forward. For instance, it returned in Doom 64 as a major enemy that you would have expected, but it returned even stronger than before. Confirmed in-game as corpses of the original Doom Cyberdemons who were brought back to life by the Mother Demon, the Cyberdemons in Doom 64 were even larger and more dangerous. With more metal patchwork all over their body and visibly decayed flesh, the monsters had a slightly altered look. While from a gameplay perspective, with the ability to now lead their shots, they were also even trickier to take on head-to-head in combat. Then came Doom 3, which made some significant changes to the demon. Doom 3 is, of course, kind of its own thing, being almost completely separated from all other games in the series barring the most threadbare connections, which afforded id Software the license to make changes to iconic demons pretty liberally. The Cyberdemon served as Doom 3's final boss, so clearly it got top billing as far as the game's roster of demons were concerned. But it took somewhat unfamiliar shape compared to its previous appearances in the series. With familiar cybernetic enhancements, metal graftings, and a rocket launcher for an arm, although on a different arm this time, Doom 3's version of the Cyberdemon was obviously still iterating on its established and instantly recognizable look from past titles. But with an even larger and more imposing frame and quite a long tail, it was also trying to put its own spin on the monster's design. From a gameplay perspective, meanwhile, Doom 3 slowed the Cyberdemon down, as it did with pretty much everything else. It moved at a much slower pace, it fired a single rocket at a time instead of the usual 3, which gave the fight a very different moment-to-moment flavor compared to past encounters with the hellish beast. Of course, it still put up a hell of a fight thanks to a large pool of health as per usual, and a complete invulnerability to any and all attacks from the weapons except the Soul Cube. So even though Doom 3's take on the Cyberdemon was different from the games that preceded it, it still ensured to make it feel like an appropriately intimidating fight. Then, eventually, we got to Doom 2016, which gave the Cyberdemon perhaps the best possible glow-up that fans of the demon could have hoped for. Pace, aggression, and intensity were the name of the game in the 2016 soft reboot. And its reimagined Cyberdemon exemplifies that better than most other demons on the roster. Larger, bulkier and more heavily armored, the Cyberdemon looked like an altered and significantly more intimidating version of what had already been quite an intimidating foe in its original form. This time, it came with a large bladed weapon mounted on one arm for brutal melee attacks, and a classic rocket launcher on the other that could now also fire lasers. In fact, when in hell, Doom 2016 Cyberdemons could also shoot out walls of flames at the Doomslayer, making them even more of a threat. Doom 2016 also added to the Cyberdemon's backstory and lore, as it did with most other things that it touched. This version of the demon was, like many other demons in Doom 2016, the product of shady UAC experiments falling under the Project Lazarus umbrella. Made by joining an accumulator and a Balgar demon together, Doom 2016 Cyberdemons were so impervious to pain and punishment that when they were not being used as living weapons, they would have to be kept permanently in stasis. The Cyberdemon's accumulator would allow it to replenish its life force if it ever became too critically injured, which meant that the only way to defeat the monster was to first remove the implant. Interestingly enough, after Doom 2016's terrifying take on the Cyberdemon, Doom Eternal went back to a more classic version of the monster, which incidentally also posed less of a challenge by default. With Eternal being an infamously grueling experience, you'd have expected it to go all out with the Cyberdemon in particular, but interestingly enough, that wasn't the case. Referred to as the Tyrant in Eternal, the monstrosity resembled its original design much more closely, with fewer grafts and implants and just the one rocket launcher as a traditional weapon. From a gameplay perspective, the Tyrant in Doom Eternal was slower moving than you'd expect from a Cyberdemon variant, with a less varied list of attacks that it could dish out, virtually all of which were easier to avoid and less damaging if you did take the hit. Eternal's tyrants were fairly common foes, especially compared to the actual Cyberdemons in past games, so perhaps them being relatively easier to take on than past Cyberdemon iterations made some amount of sense. Some longtime series fans were definitely a bit let down nonetheless, which is also easy to understand. Doom: The Dark Ages is bringing the iconic foe back as well, and we are, as you would expect, quite excited to see the changes it'll make. The upcoming shooter is promising a slower and more deliberate gameplay pace to go in line with its medieval settings, so tweaks will certainly have to be made to the Cyberdemon to ensure it fits with the new combat style. It will of course still be Doom at the end of the day, which means that we can expect grueling fights with satisfying payoffs. Or so we hope, at any rate. Hey, did you know that we at Gaming Bolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.